Many experts, they are telling us many interesting theories, Western linguistics, Indian tradition, differences, problems, that is all theory part. Then we have actually seen practical working programs, we are experimenting with them, we are seeing simple Sanskrit sentences, how to analyze, that is very practical, we can understand all that. Okay. Now my role is, I have two directions I will take, 2 points I would like to say. Okay, both are relevant because all of us are teachers. Okay. We are teachers and teaching, learning is our primary concern. Some people may have extra interest, they may be using software, they may be learning how to further improve the software or contribute to improving the lexical resources and so on. Some people may even do software development, all that. But primary goal is learning, teaching. So in this context, two directions I want to take. Okay. Without doing too much of theory, I will give a kind of simple demo first because in between all these lectures we go and have tea, isn't it? It's required. Okay, we cannot continuously go on doing the theory. So I will do a little bit of demo and then we'll do the other things. Now, my mother tongue is Kannada. Madam, what is your mother tongue? French, Malayalam, Tamil. So many languages are there. Whose mother tongue is Sanskrit here? So these days, at least, Sanskrit is not mother tongue of anybody. Now, if you see how we learn a language, there are two major types, two major variations. First language learning, second language learning. Our first language or mother tongue, we learn naturally. Nobody taught us when we were small kids. No? I was born in a language community where everybody was speaking Kannada. My mother, my father, brothers, they were speaking Kannada and I naturally learnt it. They didn't teach me Kannada. They didn't teach me Kannada grammar. They didn't give me Kannada lexicon or dictionary here. Everything I learnt on my own. And they were not speaking complete, perfect grammatical sentences also. We speak based on what we need in day-to-day life. But a child which is born in any language community picks up that language easily. In 1 year, 2 year time, he will start talking also. Nice stories he will start telling. Okay. Now, what grammar you have in my brain? Without grammar, we can't do anything. Even one simple Rama Havanam Gacchati, we can't analyze unless we have some grammar in our mind. Okay. Now, a child which is born either should have grammar of all languages at the time of birth itself, so any language it can speak, or it has no grammar, it is empty, some kind of a blank slate, but capable of learning grammar. What is it? So what Western linguistics or modern linguistics is saying, see, there are good things, there are bad things everywhere. There are things which are useful for us, things which are not relevant for us. Just now we have heard so many problems or challenges and confusions and difficulties and so on, but there are also some good points that we can look at. What modern Western linguistics is saying is that a child which is born in any language community can pick up its language easily, same amount of time, same amount of effort and all that. Therefore, all human languages should have something common. There should be something which is underlying all human languages. Okay, what is that? That is what we have to discover. That is the purpose of linguistics, that is the purpose of computational linguistics, means we are just using the computer to do this, that's all. We are not at the service of the computer. We are not servants in the hands of the computer. Computer is a tool which we are using for our purpose. So finally, we should be the beneficiaries. We are doing it for our own sake. Computer is helping us. How is it helping us? Because it can work on large amount of data in one fraction of a second. We cannot keep everything and work so fast, that's all. Yes, we are simply using it as a tool to experiment, to try out, to see whether our rules work or they don't work or what confusions come and so on. So, one idea is that how do we think of developing a universal grammar? What is common to all human languages and what are various? There will be differences also. All languages are same, then there won't be so many languages. Why do you have many languages? There are differences. But in spite of the differences, there are some common things. So, what are these common things we have to discover? Idea is very good, goal is very good, but if you see what has actually happened in the Western linguistic world so far, you actually feel frustrated. Nothing. So many books have been written, so many papers, so much of theory is there, but finally we are nowhere near answers. We don't have clear-cut answers to any of our basic questions. So what I am trying to do is, goal is same, but don't simply go by the Western linguistic tradition. We have, if not final answers, we have lot of discussion, debate, alternative ways of looking at things. There is nice theory in the Indian grammatical tradition. For example, in the Western world, if you see, there is no major discussion or serious discussion on what exactly is a sentence or what exactly is a word and so on. Syntax deals with the structure of the sentence in relation to meaning. That's what exactly is a sentence. Nobody has taken it seriously enough. Similarly, what is a word? Unfortunately today, if you see, even within linguistics, computational linguistics or whatever kind of linguistics, and in this computational linguistics or NLP, as sometimes we call it, natural language processing, sometimes we call it NLP, there is a heavy dependence on the written form. Whatever we write with spaces in between, from one space to another space is a pada. Obviously that is not correct. Okay. We have a number of exceptions to that. If you take the written form as the basis, then you get all the confusions. So the first thing I am trying to do is, if you take a proper definition of a word, half of the confusions will go away. Just now we heard somebody saying that syntax in English is different from syntax in Sanskrit. No, it is not different. It is because your notion of word is different there. Your notion of word is different, that is the problem, not because there is difference in vibhakti or word order or all this. That is a viewpoint I am trying to take. Okay. So what are the definitions of words? There are so many definitions. He is studying that in detail. I am not an expert. Okay. Somebody, Padini, for his own purpose, anything which ends with a super, a thing pratyaya is a pada, he defined it. That is for his grammatical engine purpose. It is not a universal definition, because in all languages we really do not have a list of super thing pratyayas, right? Do we have in English or Kannada or something? Either we have to discover something and say this is sup, this is thing in this language, or we have to say this definition is not immediately applicable. She was talking about Shaktam Padam. Okay. Yesterday we heard there is a Prakriti and there is a Pratyaya. The Prakriti has its own Padartha. So there is a relationship between this Pada and Artha. Okay. That relation is the Pada actually. It is not correct to say there is a relationship between Pada and Artha. There is a phonetic form or a written form. Okay. There is a Shabda and there is a Artha. That relation itself is Pada. The mapping or relationship from a phonetic form to its meaning, that is from form to function. Akara and Artha they were talking about. The mapping from Akara to Artha is grammar. That is my definition. That's why I am trying to look at it. Okay. There is structure at word level, sentence level, discourse level, all levels there is structure, and then there is meaning. The mapping from structure to meaning is not so easy, so straightforward. But meaning is most important. Without meaning, everything becomes meaningless. We don't want to do things meaningless way. Just now he said very clearly that computer does not understand the meaning of any one word in any one language. But still we want to do meaningful processing of language using computer. So how is it possible? That is a fundamental question. It is possible because there is structure in language. The human mind is capable of understanding that structure. The human mind is capable of mapping that structure to meaning in a systematic way. That is called grammar. That grammar we have in our brain already. When I know Kannada, I mean I know not only Kannada words, but I know Kannada grammar. I know how to form different forms of a word. I know how to put them together to make sentences and so on. So when I say I know a language, I basically mean I know the grammar. Okay. So because there is this systematic relationship between structure and meaning, and that relationship is learnable, it is teachable, it is storable, it is usable, we are able to, I am able to talk and you are able to understand in English or Sanskrit or any language. Otherwise I cannot talk, you cannot understand anything. Okay. So this is the view that I am trying to take. So what is a pada is a very, very, very important question. If you take this phonetic form to its meaning, mapping, that kind of a definition, I think a whole lot of problems in various world languages will vanish. It cannot solve all problems, but a whole lot of problems can be eliminated or overcome because you are taking meaning as the basis, not simply the form. So there is form, there is function, but primary thing is function, not form. First we have to fix the meaning and then we have to see how to express that meaning. We should not go by how we write and then start giving meaning to it. Okay. Now similarly at the level of sentence, what is a vakya? There should be a precise definition. Okay. Ekating vakyam, its definition or I learned from him. Okay. Again same question, what is a thing? Okay. Krudanta is there, various non-finite forms of verbs are there, finite form. This is what the Western linguistics people say. But what is finite, what is not finite, there is no single definition. Some people say if there is tense, then it is finite. Some people say if there is gender number agreement, it is finite and so on. So there are these fundamental confusions. So we have to define vakya. Firstly, we have to define what is a finite verb or whatever the equivalent thing there. Okay, when you say ekating vakyam, and then with that definition you say based on that verb, keeping that verb in the center and putting together all the other karakas which are required to make that sentence giving a complete meaning, we can define this is a sentence. If you do like this, again lot of problems will be solved. Shlokas you are talking about. Okay. Whether it is a shloka or verse form or prose form, if we start with the verbs and if you are able to identify the verbs, each finite verb defines one sentence. Sometimes we connect two sentences with cha or something, sometimes there are subordinate coordination, various kinds of relationships and so on, but we can precisely define sentences and we can analyze them. Okay. So this is basically what I am trying to do. All languages in the world I don't know, nobody knows. So how can we build a theory? We have to go by a few languages that we know. My mother tongue is Kannada, so I am working with Kannada. I stay and work in Hyderabad, which is the center of the Telugu land. I am not calling it Andhra Pradesh or Telangana or anything, some people may fight. It is just the Telugu land. I am staying there, I get lot of students also to work with, to talk with, and so I know a little bit of Telugu. So I am trying to build a grammar, taking insights from the Indian grammatical tradition, applying it to Telugu, Kannada, English also I have done some work in the past and so on. So all languages in the world we cannot do, but at least we can say to what extent these ideas are more universal than what we know. But there are difficulties. Let me first show you some things, then we'll now there are two aspects. One is this, how to find universal grammar or what is common or universal to all human languages. So Sanskrit gives us the ideas. Sanskrit is important only from that point of view for me. I am a student of Sanskrit, I read Sanskrit, I do things with Sanskrit, but that is one of the occupations or one of the hobbies. Okay. Now the other aspect which is relevant for all of you is, as we started by saying, Sanskrit is nobody's mother tongue. So we can't teach or learn Sanskrit as a first language. It is always learnt, it is always taught as a second language. Because it is taught as a second language, you are all teachers, you are all there in schools, colleges, and there are students learning from you. Okay. Now when you have to learn a second language, it is very different. It is not the same as first language learning, because my brain already has all the things fixed for my mother tongue. Initially it was a blank slate, now everything is already fixed. That is why learning another language is not so easy. First language I can learn without any effort, second language requires little more effort. Okay. And another difficulty is that Sanskrit is not spoken widely everywhere. Okay. So you may not get as much of opportunity to listen to Sanskrit or to work with Sanskrit on a daily basis as other languages. It depends upon the situation. Here we are fortunate to get a lot of Sanskrit spoken. Okay, it's not always there. So that is also a limitation from the point of view of learners. Because of these things, you have to have a little more emphasis on grammar. Because it's a language that I have to learn by being taught, I should know the grammar, otherwise I cannot speak. But if it's too much of grammar, it's too boring, too dry, people will run away. So you have the responsibility of making it interesting. You have to teach them the required amount of grammar, but still not make it too boring or difficult for them. Making it easy and so on. Okay, so from two points of view, from the point of view that language like Sanskrit has to be learned through some other language. Sanskrit I learned through Kannada, somebody learned it through Telugu, somebody learned it through Malayalam. So we have to know something about the grammar of the other language also, how to express the same thing in the other language, right? If I have to now teach Sanskrit to somebody through Kannada or through Telugu, at least that much of how to construct relevant sentences, how to translate it, how to map the Telugu sentence to Sanskrit sentence and vice versa, I need to know. For that also we need a common grammar. Unfortunately for Telugu or Kannada or any of these languages, we don't have an equivalent of a Panini who has worked out the complete thing so detailed, so precise way. There are so many grammar books in the tradition, but nobody matches Panini. Okay. So although we have some grammatical tradition, we are now left in a situation where we have to kind of rediscover or discover the rules ourselves. Okay. Principles come from Panini, principles come from our Indian grammatical traditions, focus, ideas, how to do it, which is correct way, which is not the best way of doing things, all these things come, but details we will have to work out ourselves. Okay. So, but if we can do it, it will be very useful for teaching Sanskrit or learning Sanskrit, because if you teach Sanskrit only through Sanskrit, it's not easy. Most cases it doesn't work that way. So you have to teach Sanskrit through Malayalam or through Telugu. I will show you just a demo first, and then we'll I have a very simple system. It is still under development, it is not complete or perfect, so you cannot take it to the lab and work with it right now. But hopefully one fine day it will be integrated with all these tools, so you will be able to do many things. I will just show you a glimpse of where it is today. Okay, so I will first simply run this program. I'm going to simply run this program. First, let us see what output it produces, then we can go. This is Kannada example I am showing. How many of you know Kannada? Maybe only one or two, so there is no much point in going into all the details. I will not go into too much of details, but rough idea I will give you. Similar things we are doing for Telugu also. Okay? And same thing can be done for Malayalam and other languages also. Yeah, I will do that. And I don't know how to do this. Is it better now or still bigger? Okay. So, sorry. The program initially read some data files, it read the dictionary, it said some grammar rules, all that. Okay. And then it started processing a few simple sentences. I just put a few sentences yesterday only. Okay. The first line is Kannada sentence. Okay. Sita hasati. This is Sanskrit. Okay. So immediately after the given sentence, you have to have a pada-pāṭha. Like we have in the Vedic, we have Samhita-pāṭha, then pada-pāṭha, then we can go to krama-pāṭha, jata-pāṭha, all those things. But pada-pāṭha is very important, because if you cannot split the words correctly, meanings will get distorted. So first level is break it properly into padas. Pada should be now based on our definition. So it is not based on spaces. So that is a big challenge. It's not an easy thing. So what view I am taking is, we are not slaves of the computer. Therefore, just because something is difficult to do, we will do in some other ad hoc way, I don't accept. If you cannot do, don't do it. Okay. If it cannot be done automatically, don't do it at all. You do it manually, but don't do it the wrong way. Whatever it is, you have to do it correctly. I may be making mistakes because of ignorance or because of lack of care or something. That is a different thing. But not because, oh, it is okay, computer, for this computer it's okay. That view is not correct. Okay. So pada-pāṭha, if it is difficult to do completely automatically, you do semi-automatically, you do manually, you do whatever it is, but it should be correct. Then only we have to proceed. Okay. Now there is a morphological analyzer you saw for Sanskrit. Similarly here there is a morphological analyzer. It has analyzed, it has found out the linga, vachana, vibhakti, all those kinds of things. Similarly for Kriya Pada, what is the tense, what is the aspect and agreement features, all those things. Then there is some kind of a tag which simplifies all those things, and then it goes to the parsing or Karaka analysis level. So I don't have a full-fledged Karaka analyzer right now, and my focus is still on dictionary building and morphology. But just to give you a demo, a few sentences, simple implementations I have made. So it says there is a Kriya and there is a Karta here. It's an intransitive verb, so there is no karma in this. And I have a simple way by which you can give a gloss. Gloss meaning the meaning of that in some other language. I can set that. Right now I set it to Sanskrit. So it says the Kriya has, and Sita is the Karta here. So Sita hasati you can actually construct from this easily, because you have the Karaka analysis, you have the Pratipadika, you have the Dhatu, and you also have the grammatical information. Okay, from the present tense or whatever you have to convert into Lakara, from gender, number, person, in whatever notation I have used in English, you can convert it into Linga, Vachana, Vibhakti, whatever, we can map it to their system. It can generate a Sanskrit sentence. If you want, you can get it in Telugu. If you want, you can get it in English in different languages. I will just show you a demo. Okay. So actually this system can be used to combine several languages. You can forget about Sanskrit and work only between Telugu and Kannada. How to combine them, or you can put it in English. So this is another sentence. There is a Karta and there is a Karma. This is a Karmaka Kriya Pada. Just one sentence I showed. So Kriya is there, Karta is there, Karma is there. So it has done this. So if you know this much, you can make the Sanskrit sentence. What is it, Pavan? Plural is there. Yeah. If there is any mistake, you tell me, I will correct it. If there is a mistake in the Pratipadika or Dhatu or something, you tell me, I will correct it. Okay, this sentence is Rama gave a fruit to Sita. So there is a Kriya Pada which takes two arguments. Actually it has Sampradana is there, then also Karma is there, Karta is there. So you can now get the Sanskrit. You can do the Ulta also. From their Sanskrit, I will show you how I can generate Kannada. So they have the Sanskrit Analyzer now. So if I have to just interface with the correct formats and all that, I can't demonstrate it to you, but it's in principle possible. So we can take their systems, take a Sanskrit sentence, we will get the Karaka analysis. From that Karaka analysis, I can map and I can generate Kannada sentence. I will show you only the morphological generator here, but interfaces if you build, then you can take a Sanskrit text, you can produce the corresponding Kannada, Telugu or whatever equivalent and use it for language teaching, language learning. So this I took from Madam, she was giving this example yesterday. Ramaha nagare brahmanaya kosha dhanam dadati or something. Okay, just a few examples I wanted to show you. Now, how does it work? There are no interfaces right now, so you can't take a mouse and just click and get things done. So it is all done in a very simple way. Actually, see here I have a gloss file. I said Kannada Sanskrit. So instead of that, if I say Kannada Telugu gloss file you take, and I run the same program without any change, I will get the gloss in Telugu. Okay. Okay. Rest of the thing is same, only the gloss has changed. So some people know Telugu, so you can relate this. Kukkalu annam tintunnayi or something. Ramudu Sitaku పండ్లు ఇచ్చాడు or ఇస్తున్నాడు whatever. Now you can get it in English and so on. This is only gloss, this is not translation. Translation is a harder problem because there will be all minor differences in the syntax and you have to correct all those things. But glossing is very useful because you can understand. Once you have the structure in your mind, you can understand. So you can even get it in sentence form. I can put it in sentence form, so I can have Sanskrit sentence, below that I will have the corresponding root words in the other language and the grammatical form also. Exact word order, small variations may be there, but it is still very useful. Anyway, so what you can see here is, there is a single program which does all the things. It can be used as a morphological analyzer, it can be used as a morphological generator also. So suppose I want to take Sanskrit and convert it into Kannada, so I will use it in the generator form. Just to show you an example, let us say I run the same program, I only change the configuration. It says give me some Kannada noun, okay. It can generate the various linga, vachana, vibhakti forms, okay. So as per the rules of Kannada grammar, these are not coded in the program, they are all separate data files, so it is easy to work with them. You can change the grammar rules without touching the code, okay, and you can work with correct forms will be generated as per the rules of Kannada. You can do it for verbs also. I can make this all simpler by providing interfaces, but that part is not yet done. So if I say, so it can generate all the basic forms of a Kriya Dhatu. So whatever form I want, for this I want Latlakara, I want Prathama Purusha, Ekavachana, whatever it is you can do. There are always small differences. In Sanskrit, gender is not encoded in the verb. Sahagacchati, Sahagacchati. But in Kannada, gender information is also there. So if you are going from Kannada to Sanskrit, there is no problem. Kotte, kottanu, kottalu differences would be there. Okay. In Telugu, you have actually neuter or non-masculine and masculine distinction. But masculine, feminine, neuter distinctions are there in Kannada. Okay. So if you are going from Sanskrit to Kannada, you have to produce a Sita or Rama. Sita has to be kottanu, Rama has to be Sita has to be kottalu, Rama has to be kottanu. So you have to do a little bit of thing. Okay. So gender information comes from the dictionary. So if you have that information in the dictionary, you can handle that also. So you can actually do it use it in different modes. You can use it in a spell checking mode. So you can give a document, it will do analysis, and wherever there is some problem with that word, it will highlight and say these are probably errorful words. You can use it for spell checking. You can use it only to get the roots. It's called lemmatization or stemming. So it is useful for some applications. You can do complete morphological analysis. You can use it for parsing and so on. Okay. So the same kind of work we are doing for Telugu, Kannada and so on. The program is same, only the data files change. The grammar rules are different. So if some of you are interested, you can look at the details later on. Okay, but right now let me not go into too much of these details. I will just show you that this whole thing is just some, people talk about terabytes, gigabytes, megabytes, all that, it is only a few kilobytes. And it is a standalone system, there are no dependencies right now. So you can simply take it in a stick and put it on any computer. In 1 second you can install it and it will work. Anywhere you have a Unix kind of a system, it will work. So if you are interested, later on we can look at how the grammar is encoded and some of those things, but right now let us not worry about that aspect. Okay. So what is the use of this? Once it is fully developed and it is integrated with the Sanskrit system, it will be useful for teaching and learning Sanskrit through our own languages. So if we can do similar thing for Malayalam, then through Malayalam we can teach or learn Sanskrit and so on. But one caution, as I said, we can never afford to make a mistake. Because we are teaching, if you give wrong input to the student, then it's wrong. It is a disservice rather than a service. But we know computer has its limitations, and we also have our limitations. No human being is perfect. We make mistakes knowingly, unknowingly sometimes and all that. So we should be doubly, triply, multiply careful not to allow wrong data to go to the students. So until you have to wait till the system is reasonably, you are reasonably sure that it will not make mistakes, or you have to manually check it and correct it and then give it to the students. So what we can normally do is, because you have standard textbooks, school level and college level and so on, you take the textbook, you run through the system, test it, perfect it, and then that can be made available to the student. You can also try any new sentence of your own, but we should be careful not to have major mistakes at least. Okay? If they want to say something? Now, yes.
केन्द्रसर्वकारस्य सर्वमेक ओर्डर् अस्ति संस्कृतं संस्कृतमाध्यमेन एव पाठनीयमिति अस्माकमपि इदानीम् अनुभवः अस्ति संस्कृतं संस्कृतमाध्यमेन पाठयति चेत् इतोपि सुकरं भवति इति अस्माकमपि अनुभवः.
How many of you agree with that? I learned Sanskrit through Kannada because I studied at high school level. At that level I didn't know a single word of Sanskrit, and people were simply talking Sanskrit and teaching Sanskrit through Sanskrit. Probably it would have been more difficult for me to learn. Because it was taught through English or Kannada or some language I knew, it became easier for me. This is my view. I think
there are two different aspects.
If you are teaching at a very young level, at a very basic level, LKG level, if you are teaching, I think that's a good idea. But if you are learning at a later stage in life, if you have to learn Sanskrit through Sanskrit alone, we don't know where to start from. We are starting with an unknown thing and we are trying to go to, we have to always go from a known to an unknown, from a sure thing to an unsure thing. Otherwise we get lost. That is one possible.
But when you teach Sanskrit through Sanskrit, there is an atmosphere. So you continuously, your ear gets trained to various Sanskrit constructions and vocabulary, etc. That helps you having more, increase your vocabulary faster.
Sure.
And other things. Otherwise, grammar, etc., well, you have to do it in a systematic way. Just by using Sanskrit as a medium may not help you to understand the grammar.
That is true. If there is a ambience where there is more of Sanskrit, it will be easy for us to observe.
So
that is true.
Will be there
Yeah.
if you hear it more often.
That is true. There was a lot of Sanskrit in the way they taught us, and we used to actually answer questions in Sanskrit. We had an option of writing the answers either in Sanskrit or in Kannada or English or something. But many times we chose to write the answers in Sanskrit because we want to experiment and we want to learn, and that's the best way to learn. So many of the essay type questions we used to answer in Sanskrit only. So there was a good environment, but if everything was taught only through Sanskrit, probably in the initial stages there will be a difficulty. Until you pick up at least a little bit of Sanskrit. See, now if anybody speaks this kind of simple Sanskrit, I am able to absorb everything. But when I didn't know a single word of Sanskrit, or whatever I knew, I didn't know that that is Sanskrit. Okay, and when people start Sanskrit, it is an alien language. Okay, when suddenly if I go to France and I don't know anything and everybody is speaking French, it's not easy for me to observe. But first language learning is not like that. So at a very early age, if you are teaching, even if it is a second language, maybe the child can absorb easily. These are different views. I respect, appreciate your views, but there are probably other views also. There is no force that you have to use this system or you have to use a particular language to learn or teach Sanskrit, right? It is always your choice. Okay. So there are two things we can do. We can continue with some of the theoretical ideas that we started with, or if there are any points for discussion or debate like this, he raised an interesting thing, that also can. Yeah, sure.
Can you relate these things to
Okay. 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 So, if you look at language, okay, starting point are the Varanas. We have already discussed that. At the phonetic level, there is an infinite variety, there is a continuum, but we discretize it and say this is pa, this is ba, and intermediate things may be there, but if in my language I have a pa and a ba, I know where to put the limit. If it is on this side it is pa, on this side it is ba. If I don't have such a distinction, I will not write a line there. So whatever it is, in a given language, the first and foremost thing we learn is the Varanas. Without Varna, we can't do anything in language. Now, if you want to do computational work or you want to learn or you want to teach, first thing we have to know what exactly are the Varnas in our language. We have fortunately a Varnamala to start with, but even there, as Peter pointed out yesterday, there could be some questions. It is not as simple as it appears on the face of it. Whether Anuswara should be taken as a phoneme by itself or it is based on context, it becomes one of the homoorganic nasals, so therefore there is no need to treat it as a separate phoneme. Such kind of fine points may always be there. Okay, what is a swara, what is a vyanjana, there can be discussion. What is a swara, what is a vyanjana, how do some consonants can also be produced without the help of a vowel for a fairly long period of time. I can say there is no vowel there. I can say rrr, l. Some consonants can also be produced with or without the help of a vowel. So, is it a consonant? Is it a vowel? So, if you go deeper and deeper into these questions, you will get some subtle points. It may not be required for teaching at school level or college. If required, whatever level we required, we can go. So, whatever it is, so we have to first fix the Varnas. How do you say these two are different Varnas? He has already given the criteria. We should have the minimal pair concept. Bala is there, Bala is there, these two are different, therefore A and A are different. So, likewise for every pair of Varnas, when should I stop? Yavad vaktavyam tavad vakyam. Is running Linux, it's okay? I was about to close. We can continue this in another talk. Okay. Arsh, what madam has to decide. Yeah. Okay, so once we have fixed on the Varnas, by defining the minimal pairs for every pair, if there are n Varnas, there are NC2 combinations. If there are 45 Varnas, 45 into 45 minimal pairs, you have to find out, you have to list them. There will be some confusion, some people will go on arguing, no, these two are not different Varna, they are not required. You know, in any grammatical tradition, somebody says Bandira is not required in Telugu, somebody will say, no, Ru, you can write it as Ra and Kommu, all kinds of confusions will come. So, you have to have the minimal pairs defined. After that, you have to define Pada, because what goes into the dictionary is the Pada, what goes into a morphological analyzer is one Pada, not one sequence of characters separated by spaces, not at all correct. When you do tagging, one tag has to be assigned to one Pada, okay. There is, each Pada will have a Prakriti, Pratyaya, you have to analyze the morphology of that. Then you have to relate the Padas to form a Vakya. So, what exactly is a Pada is the biggest question. That is where we have maximum memory. So, if you take a highly strict view, okay, and say, what is a verb? It indicates some activity, okay. Ram ja raha hai, Ram is going, something. How many activities are there? That is the first question we have to ask. Only one activity is there. Therefore, there is only one verb. Therefore, there is only one word. If you take that kind of a view, then you are going to demolish a large number of ideas in modern linguistics. A large number, it will, it will have a very, series of major effects on all levels of linguistics. What is a morpheme, what is a free morpheme, what is a bound morpheme, what is a word, what is movement, what is all kinds of things. Okay. For example, the notion of auxiliary verb will melt away. If there is a kriya and there is a sub-kriya, which is an anga of that kriya, then it is a kind of an auxiliary or related activity or a part of that activity. But in most cases, auxiliary verbs are not used in that sense. They are simply separate tokens come by has been, coming, they are called auxiliary main verb, all that. All those notions will go away. The notion of content word and function word will go away. If there is no content, it is not a word. Because we have defined starting from artha, not starting from the form, but from the function. Okay. So, there will be major effects or changes in all levels of linguistics. People will not easily accept and it will not be easily it will not be easy to show that this kind of a view actually works. But somewhere deep inside I feel that is the right kind of view to take, if not in one step, because that will put all the world languages much closer to each other. Hindi is not morphologically less complex than Kannada, or English is not morphologically less loaded than Kannada, and the number of words in a sentence and the syntactic structures, everything will become much closer if you start purely from meaning point. But this is not easily computable. This is not easy to do it on the computer. It's not easy even for us. There will be major questions asked even if you want to do it manually. But that is a viewpoint I think worth considering more seriously. Okay. So once you have the pada, then how to analyze the pada, how to generate the required forms of pada, morphology has to be done. Fortunately, Sanskrit morphology is almost perfectly worked out by Panini. Now the point is, what is Sanskrit? Nobody has any confusion. After Panini, whatever is according to Panini is Sanskrit, otherwise you will say it is wrong. Okay. So the Panini has indirectly, although he didn't impose it on the people, everybody accepted it and the whole world accepted it, and that is what is called Sanskrit now. Unfortunately, such a situation is not there in other languages. There is no one grammar of Kannada and say if it is according to that grammar, it is Kannada, otherwise it is not acceptable. I don't know. So what is Kannada? What is Telugu? You don't know. Where to put the boundary? Because you find a wide range of variations. There are core form, there are variants, there are still further variants. You stretch, you drag, you tweak, you twist. So we don't know. But somewhere we have to put some limits and say this is what are the padas. Then you can go to lexicon, morphology, all that. We will continue with, are you ready? You are ready? Then you can take over. I will come back after some time, maybe tomorrow.
So everybody here has used the web, right? Anybody who has not browsed on the web? Okay, that's what I thought. Everybody's shy and doesn't want to raise their hand. Nobody's really browsed on the web, right? Okay. So everyone's browsed on the web. And so when you browse on the web, you can find all kinds of things that you like. You can find William Shakespeare with a couple of clicks, right? And if you want to look at Hamlet, you can click something and it will lead to Hamlet, and you can click on one act and it leads to another page. It brings up another page with some text on it, right? So you can read Hamlet's play right there on the web. And what we've been doing at the Sanskrit Library is trying to create the same kind of facility that we're used to having for texts in English for Sanskrit texts. So we've been trying to locate those things. And now, the way things are, it's not quite set up that way. You have to really know where to go. There are certain archives of texts that have things on the web, but the way they display them is not necessarily very pretty. So we can come and find on the TITIS website at the University of Frankfurt a collection of about 90 Sanskrit and Vedic texts. We can go to this page and select Indic classical. Here we have Indic, Vedic, classical epic Sanskrit, and we can then select the text archive. And find there some plays by Kalidasa, and very quickly show some text on the web. And as you can see, it's not very pretty, but there is some text and some analysis of word forms into the pada-pāṭha version of this text. And there's also ways of finding text on the web in PDF format. Okay, so this is the way things stand now regarding text on the web. We can find the Raghuvaṁśa in Google Books and see the text here. Now, seeing the text in a PDF document like this, or a digital book displayer, doesn't allow us to search the text or have any access to character data. These are just images. These are flat images of the text. And you can see also the quality is not very good. Google scanned things on a massive scale very quickly, chopping off the book and feeding the pages through a reader. And we've chopped off the left margin of the text here, as you can see. Right? It's missing. So it's not quite, I think I'm going backwards sometimes here. Yeah, you can find also some manuscripts on the web. You can find digital images of manuscripts on the web at the University of Pennsylvania of Raghuvaṁśa's play. Now, of the Raghuvaṁśa. How do I get out of this slideshow? Back to the sorter, do you know? Huh? Just escape? I want to skip something. So there are some problems with displaying things on the web that I'm going to come back to. Okay. So here's another. This is a digital image of a manuscript of the Bhagavad-Gita that was made in the project that I'm directing now of integrating digital images, digital texts, and cataloging data for manuscripts on the web. So we're integrating this information on our Sanskrit Library website so that one can have focused access. The idea is to give focused access to these digital images in a way that's not possible now, because, you know, with English, you can search, you can go to Google, you can type in some text and you can search, and you can have this very kind of focused access to digital text. But not all of the works of Sanskrit have been typed in. There's not character data of those texts. So we don't have access to it. But where we do have images, we thought, let's try to create focused access using a kind of crutch of collating the digital images with digital texts and allowing that digital text to provide a crutch to give us the focused access to specific pages of digital images of manuscripts that have corresponding digital texts. So that's the idea of what we're doing. So these images are available on the web at the University of Pennsylvania even now. You'll notice that this text has a number of features which are interesting. It uses different colors. Iti nyasa. So this is the beginning of the Bhagavad-Gita. At the beginning of this text, there's a mala mantra or a nyasa, a dhyanam, some verses in praise of Vyasa and so on. And at the end it says iti nyasaha. And then it starts in, it says Dhritarashtra uvacha in red. And then it gives the first verse of the Bhagavad-Gita, dharmakshetre kurukshetre samaveta yutsavaha. And then Sanjaya uvacha. Yeah, the speaker again is in red. And then the next verse. And at the end of the first chapter, it has what we call a final rubric. That is a kind of title heading, except it's a tail, not a head. It comes at the end. Whoops. I'm unaccustomed to using this machine, which is very sensitive. It's jumping all over the place every time I look at it. Now it went back to. Okay, so and then after the rubric we have what's called a colophon that I don't think the mouse is going to help. Oh yeah, it might help. It'll help me point to it because I'm touching the touchpad and it's jumping all over the place. Yeah, it's there. Okay. Yeah, so here's the final rubric. And then afterwards we have what's called a colophon. Okay? So there's lots of interesting structure in these manuscripts. And here we have a manuscript also of the Mahabharata Udyoga Parvan in Telugu, written in Telugu script on palm leaf. Some of our manuscripts are of this type. Okay, so that's all I wanted to show in this slideshow. Now, with this kind of, with what we're used to doing on the web, there's a lot going on in the background. One of the things going on is that every page we come to is an HTML page. What is HTML? Anybody who, besides Pavan, who obviously knows the answer, and Monali, some of you who aren't working at the University of Hyderabad now, can you tell me? Hypertext markup language. Okay, hypertext markup language. Hypertext is obviously some kind of text, but it's doing something more, right? It does something more. What it does is, as Gerard mentioned the other day, it allows us to link pages together, not just in a linear fashion, but springing from one text to another with a lot of cross-referencing. It can lead the reader from one place to another very quickly. So the hypertext markup language is a certain specific linguistic structure that's been agreed on that people can use to insert a meta language, right? When Gerard was talking about Panini this morning, Panini's grammar is written in a certain kind of language. It's written in Sanskrit about Sanskrit. And that treatise has some features to it that describe its own language. For example, Tasmin iti udishte purvasya. Tasmin iti udishte purvasya. When something is indicated in the locative, it means that the operation provided by a rule applies to what precedes that locative. That is a statement telling how it tells something about the language of the Ashtadhyayi. So similarly, hypertext markup language it's not meant to be read as part of the document. It's language which tells what to do with that document. So there's some text which is marked up with a tag, happens to be a tag that says A, okay? So there's a tag, and tags have a certain syntax to them. There are angle brackets at the beginning, at the opening marker of a tag, and more angle brackets at the end of the tag, and in the end marker there's a forward slash just after the open angle bracket. So we have a tag, the basic syntax of HTML, hypertext markup language, is, I hope I didn't erase something you were trying to save for later. Or just undo. Is something like this. Okay? This is a link. This is a hypertext link. This tells that this text, which occurs between these two tags, the text is still going to be read as the text, right? But the tag tells us the tag is not going to be read. The tag is saying, with this text, link it. Link it to someplace. Okay? And now there's an attribute to this tag. There's an attribute to this tag. What's the attribute? href, yes. href. So there's an attribute which tells where to go when somebody clicks on this. Okay? The tag turns this text into a link, a hypertext link, and this attribute tells where to link to. So we put some text between these straight ticks that will tell where to go. Page X, okay? And that should be a legitimate reference to some file or to some other HTML page located on the web somewhere. So this is used frequently, and hypertext markup language has some other simple features. There are lots of tags which say, okay, put this text. Let's make this. The I tag tells us to put some text in italics. What? It's deprecated? It is? Well, it's an old HTML. HTMLX now has upgraded the standards. Anyway, and there's some other things like H, which say something's a heading. And yeah, you can have H1, 2, 3. You can have a B tag for bold. Probably also deprecated, huh? Anyway, these were some of the original tags that just tell some basic kind of text markup. And with this set of tags, you can do quite a lot. You can make a basic HTML document that will legitimately show on the web, and with some, 1 or 2 lines at the top which classify the document to be read according to certain universal standards. So that's HTML, hypertext markup language. Now, after using that for some time, it evolved into, people decided to extend this markup language and to strengthen it, to make it a more powerful language, and it evolved into standard general markup language, SGML, and then eventually into what's called XML, that is, anything markup language. Okay? It became a kind of universal format for a language that was not entirely specified. XML means that people can make up their own. They can make up their own tags, and as long as they're in a certain format, within those angle brackets, and as long as they describe the tags that they're using in a standard format, in what's called a document type definition, or DTD, document type definition, the document type definition itself has to be an XML document, which conforms to a very strict syntax and allows, it allows you, the document type definition specifies the strict language according to which certain documents conform. And the documents conform to that if they use the tags in the way specified in that document type definition. Then there are software tools which have been developed to validate documents with respect to certain document type definitions. And those are called XML validators. An XML validator will want to know, okay, give me the document you want to validate, give me the document type definition you want to validate this document with respect to, and I'll tell you whether the document conforms or not, and I can also tell you where it doesn't conform, and you can then fix those non-conformities so that it does conform. So this has become a very powerful tool for the creation of standard documents that can be worked with by digital tools. So that's the idea behind XML, is to allow us to create documents that can be worked with in a standard format by digital tools on the web. When we have a document up on the web, like any one of these HTML documents, they're also in conformity with certain strict rules, and XML documents are also in conformity with certain rules. Now, XML, I said, allows someone to invent anything on their own. As you can imagine, when someone is given that kind of freedom, there can come to be quite a variety, and that variety might escape the ability to be controlled in a systematic way, and so some standards organizations grew up to allow the development of text documents in conformity with those standards, to make it possible to develop software that could work with those documents more easily. And one of those organizations is what's called the Text Encoding Initiative. The Text Encoding Initiative created a set of, and is in the process of continuing to create additional standards for the creation of digital texts. When someone takes a book and decides, I want to make this book a digital book, the Text Encoding Initiative will suggest certain methods to use in a standard format for the markup of that text, so that it will convey sufficient information for others to use it in a useful way. And one of the things that this Text Encoding Initiative has done is to describe certain tags which might be useful in the marking up of text. So when we have text, we might have some text that says, I went to Ernakulam, period, Gerard stayed here, and then we can have another paragraph, Amba taught class, okay? So this text has a certain structure. We have two paragraphs. So they suggest, well, let's have a tag called P, which marks up paragraphs. And we'll make that a kind of sort of standard practice for marking up paragraphs. And we'll also have a tag to mark up sentences. We could mark up sentences within this. So we have a sentence here, I went to Ernakulam. So we could put another tag in here, put a tag S around this sentence, and another tag S around this sentence. Okay? And we can put a tag S around this sentence. Okay? And we could then say, okay, this is one chapter. Let's call this a division, div. We'll make a div tag here. End tag div. Okay. So there we have a basic first chapter of our novel. And they then suggest that this goes within the body. This is the body of our document, end tag, and it's a text, okay? So then TEI will have a closed TEI tag here, and before this they'll have, okay, this is the text. This is marking up the text, and the TEI will also say that you should put a header on your document. You should have a header to the document. Every document, according that conforms to TEI, must have a header that gives metadata about that document. This is a novel written by Peter Scharf on 24th of December 2011 in Velianad. Okay, and we can put all that information in what's called a TEI header. So now we have, let's say we have at the beginning we have a TEI tag, and that's going to have some syntax of its own. And then we have TEI header. Oops. And down here we're going to have our text, right, that we just erased. We have the text down here. And we're going to have a closed TEI header tag here. And in between, we're going to have a file description, which will tell about this file. And in that file description, we're going to also we're going to tell something about the digital file that this is. This is a digital file, and it's got a name, it's got a title. So we're going to have a title. I think there's some other tag that has to come in here, but anyway, we're going to have a title. This is the first digital edition of Peter's novel. Okay? Okay? And we'll have, date and place also in here somewhere. And we might have some information about its encoding. We'll have an encoding desk here. This is encoded in SLP1. Okay? And then after this, we're going to have a let's see, in here, in between here, we'll put another section where we describe the printed source. So we'll have a source desk, and we'll have a close tag for that. And in between here, we'll have a bibliographic entry. So we'll have a bibble tag or a bibble struct tag, a structured bibliographic entry tag in here, which will contain elements like, was this a monograph or an article? Okay, this was a book, so it's a monograph. We'll have a monograph tag, and within that we'll have title, author, date of publication, this kind of information, imprint, and so on. All kinds of information describing where the book was published that tells Peter's novel, from which we used as the source for our digital text, the first digital edition of Peter's novel. So this is basically what the text encoding initiative has done. It has created suggested set of standards for encoding digital text, taking paper documents and making digital text in conformity with those paper documents. And it puts a header on the top describing the relationship between that digital document and the source text from which that digital document was made. You can also create digital documents that don't have any source, but there are procedures and suggested tags to describe those documents as well. Okay, so that's the idea behind creating TEI conformant XML documents. And some of UMBA's students are in the process now of creating such documents. As the basis for studies that they're doing on things like pada-pāṭha and so forth. Some of Girishnath Jha's students are also in the process of creating XML documents of texts. Can I quit that? Is that going to quit without me doing something else? Okay. And I heard the lunch bell. We could stop now and continue, or I could show you one more thing. What time is it? 1 o'clock. Should we stop or? Yeah. Maybe we should stop now, and then up there, we're going to meet up there, right, after lunch? And then I can use my own computer, so it'll be easier. Okay, so we'll break now. And after lunch, we're going to have a workshop session where you are going to encode a digital text using XML, and you're going to validate that against an XML, against the TEI schema. A schema is like a DTD, except it can give additional information. So you'll validate your document against a TEI schema to make sure it conforms to the text encoding initiative. And that will be very easy. You'll see how easy it is to do a basic document. Okay?